I think I was maybe 8 years old, and my grandmother gave me a camera. I immediately fell in love with observing the world. I like to make work out in the world. I find it endlessly fascinating. I find that I could never invent the incredible things that happen. And I love going places or having experiences that are not completely within my control.
Hi. Katy Grannan makes portraits that blend a fine art aesthetic with a pared-down documentary approach. Her overall presence reminds me a little bit of Sally Mann. She's strong, driven, and is facing real-life experiences head-on. She's also producing photography that has something to say. But like Mann, she has detractors nipping at her heels. The dominant criticism is that she's unkind or exploitative in her practice. It seems unreasonable to me to expect someone to create work that reveals uncomfortable realities within society, while at the same time expecting them to conform to the idea of being nice. Niceness isn't a virtue, it's just an expression of conformity. Kindness is a virtue, and from what I can tell, Grannan is engaging honestly and empathetically with the individuals she interacts with. She's drawn to those on the margins of society, the people who are easily overlooked. Grannan responds to her critics by saying, "I don't understand people who say the work is exploitative. My intention is the opposite. I wouldn't spend my life taking pictures of people I was judging." A photographer's life experience has a strong impact on the tone of their work and also the genre that they choose to work in. Grannan's father was an undertaker, and she grew up with a strong sense of mortality. The funeral parlor was where she would go every weekend to visit her great-grandmother. So from an early age, she didn't shy away from the harsh realities of life, like death. When some commentators suggest that she's conveying people in a clinical or detached manner, they may just be feeling uncomfortable with unambiguous truth. Grannan has a particular affiliation with people who see themselves or are viewed by society as anonymous. Her portraits of these people are psychological rather than journalistic. She isn't saying, "Look here, this person is down and out or lost." She's showing us how fragile our existence is, that our hold on life is tenuous, and to some extent, we are all resisting being overwhelmed by negative life experiences. Grannan witnessed her childhood friend make a series of unfortunate decisions. Their friend Heather became addicted to heroin and very quickly ended up on the streets, working as a prostitute and eventually getting HIV.
She told me she felt anonymous. She said she knew that people didn't even regard her as a person anymore. It's someone you see in the periphery and you think, whatever, junkie, hooker, whatever. And so what does it mean then to feel invisible? Like you do not, there's, matter. And of course she does or did. But, and then she said to me, it's strange how life turns out. I would have thought you would be me and I would be you, which I've never forgotten. I think about that every day. What the circumstances of our lives can change on a dime.
She questioned why she had taken one path and her friend landed up on the low road. She realized that for her, photography was a tether. But through her work, she continues to look back into the void that could so easily have been her life, or for that matter, any of ours. At 18, Grannan went to the University of Pennsylvania, planning to apply to medical school. But one day while sitting on a bed, she picked up a copy of the New York Times magazine, and there she saw a picture of Robert Frank on the cover that was taken by Eugene Richards. She read the article and was blown away by the photographs from the Americans. It was a pivotal moment. Before that point, she had no idea that it was possible to communicate that strongly through photography. Grannan gave up her plans of becoming a doctor and began studying photography at Yale. There she was tutored by photographers Gregory Crutzen and Todd Papageorge. Her work reflects aspects from the approaches of both of these photographers. Papageorge was interested in the theatre of the real world, while Crutzen creates everything from start to finish. Towards the end of her studies, Crutzen included her work in a New York gallery exhibition titled Another Girl, Another Planet, and from that point her career began to take off. She thinks people want to be photographed for the same reason she wants to photograph them, because they want to live a little, because they want to break some rules, and they want to know that someone is there to record them doing it. For a number of years, she worked on various projects in the American Northeast. She said that to some extent she was photographing herself. The pictures are informed by her own childhood growing up in Arlington, Massachusetts. Within each of her portraits is a sense of secrecy, desire, and hidden intentions. To find models for her portrait, she placed classified advertisements in the local newspapers. The ads read, "Art models wanted. Female photographer seeks people for portraits. All ages, all types. No experience necessary. Will pay." When Grannan's husband was offered a job in San Francisco, they headed west. In California, her modus operandi changed. Instead of placing ads in newspapers, she began to approach strangers in San Francisco's Tenderloin district and on Los Angeles' Hollywood Boulevard. These are both downtrodden areas with abundant social problems.
So when I moved west, the first thing that struck me was just the quality of the light. And so I wandered. I just wanted to wander. I wanted to walk around with a camera and kind of explore. The light was bright and illuminating everything, including the incredible suffering here.
The images conformed to a distinct aesthetic. She would mainly shoot against plain white walls, and the harsh Californian sunlight had the effect of cementing her subjects as if they were sculptures. She said that by removing her subjects from context, she was able to emphasize the individual nature of their being. Each photograph is the result of an on-the-spot collaboration.
My one direction is always don't look at the camera, because I wanted them to appear almost as though they were unaware, to reference a kind of street photography. Eventually, they kind of often relax, or they're bored or aggravated, maybe a little bit of, okay, are we done yet? And then something interesting happens, and those are almost inevitably the best pictures.
Formally, I was interested in a degree of abstraction, of really stripping away all the extra stuff and only leaving what was absolutely essential.
The people that she chose were part of a large underclass. They generally have to scrape a living together on the periphery of the city. They recognize that they are largely invisible, as SUV drivers avert their eyes so as not to spoil their day.
I wanted to meet people that wanted to be photographed. I didn't want to be a fly on the wall or photograph someone from afar.
Throughout the Boulevard series, we encounter people like the aging Marilyn Monroe impersonator, who in the final analysis just wants to be seen. In this portrait, she's responding theatrically and confidently for the camera, even though we are aware of her vulnerability, and in her eyes we can read a history of tragedy. But this isn't a story about poverty or being down and out. Within all of these people, we can recognize a glimmer of hope. Grannan has allowed these anonymous individuals their 10 or 15 minutes in the limelight, and they become transformed from anonymous background extras into heroic survivors. She admits that she's constantly examining her own motives and preoccupations, why she's attracted to these environments and people. She said, "I realized that I always thought that I had the potential to end up like the people I'm photographing. I always thought that this was my course, and by the grace of God, I made a turn for the better."
The photograph offers a kind of unexpected intimacy and pushing a boundary. My hope is that you can empathize and maybe even recognize, something in someone that you might not pay very much attention to.
More recently, Grannan has been living and working in Northern California's Humboldt County. It's been described as a place where people go to disappear. When she first arrived there, she didn't know anyone. So she returned to an earlier method of finding connections and subjects to photograph.
When I moved to Humboldt, I didn't know anyone. So my first instinct was to meet people through photography. So I placed ads in Craigslist and on flyers that I hung around town. And I was really curious that in a place that's known for its remoteness, who would be interested in being seen?
She said that photography for her is about insisting on beauty, the importance of connection, and the value of paying attention. But of course, the truest definition of beauty is a complicated one. She described it as being closer to the idea of the sublime, which is a combination of awe, terror, and beauty.
It's about complexity, because that's who we are.
Through her pictures, she's made a kind of collaborative fiction. Some of the images were made in a studio with a bright red carpet, and here the subjects are playing with the idea of fashion photography, but they're undermining its rules. She says that even though it's easy to feel isolated and powerless, she's found meaning and connection through the lens of a camera. Each time she photographs someone, there's a sense of mystery and a feeling of starting over. I'll end with photographs from a series, The Nine, in which she focuses on the community on Modesto's South 9th Street. She also produced a film of the same name, which received a lot of critical acclaim. I'll leave it there, but I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I'm always drawn to more difficult material. I torture myself because I feel like I never know where I'm going, but that's what's required. Probably the most important part for me is the leap of faith that we both take to trust one another. I guess I want to be shaken out of complacency. I think discomfort is a really important feeling, and it might help you recognize some of your own limitations in the way you see the world. Do I have the right to be there? And what does that mean? And then I get to go home to my house in Berkeley. It's difficult, and it raises a lot of questions. I struggle with wanting to do more, probably feeling a bit guilty, and at the same time really valuing my friendships. I don't know. It's the fact is it's complicated and it's not resolvable, and yet to avoid it is sort of becoming complicit in not seeing